Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared and we're about to play Star Wars Rebellion. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. As I go over everything, feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. For your convenience, I've added timestamps in the description to the different sections of this tutorial. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. Star Wars Rebellion from Fantasy Flight Games is a 2 to 4 player Star Wars game pitting the Empire against the Rebellion. All your favorite characters are here, and if you add in the expansion, you'll also have characters from Rogue One. For me, this is the definitive Star Wars tabletop experience. While it can be played up to 4 people, it shines best at one-on-one. Players will execute missions, send leaders around the galaxy, space battle, and planet ground battle throughout the game. The Empire needs to find and destroy the Rebels' home base, while the Rebels need to survive out the game clock or push the end sooner by completing objectives. There's a lot of game included in this box, so let's open it up and take a look at how to set it up. Star Wars Rebellion's map of the known galaxy is so large you need 2 game boards. Lay both of them out on the table next to each other, aligning the planets in the center. Decide who will be the Imperial players and who will be the Rebels. If you can't agree, randomly decide. Since it's a team game, one side sits across from the other. Have the Empire players sitting on the side closest to Coruscant, so the text is right side up. The Rebels should sit across the table on the Rebel side. The map is made up of 32 systems, which each have a planet in them and space around them. There are 8 regions on the board, separated by thicker orange lines. The shaded thick borders with orange lines are impassable and can never be moved through. Both sides should collect all the components that go with their faction. Both will have plastic miniature ships and ground units, cardboard leaders on standees, loyalty markers, the faction sheet, mission cards, and action cards. The Imperial miniatures are a darker gray color, while the Rebel miniatures are a light tan to help distinguish them all at a glance. The faction sheets are double-sided, with one side for a team game and one for a single player. I'll be teaching this as a 2-player game, and at the end of the video describe how a team game of 4 players works. From your available leaders, look for the recruit icon. Set these aside for now. The 4 remaining leaders are your starting available leaders at the beginning of the game. Put them in the leader pool area on your faction sheet. Take the time marker token and put it at the start of the time track at 1. The Rebel reputation marker on space 14 of the same track. Now sort out the objective cards. The backs will have the Roman numeral 1, 2, or 3. Shuffle each separately and stack them on top of each other so that one is on top. The Rebel player should draw one from the top of the deck and keep it secret. The action cards are the smaller ones with an image of a black or white cockpit on the backs. The black-backed action cards are for the Imperial player. For your first game, take all the action cards that have the recruit icon on them and shuffle them into a face-down deck. Place these next to each player's faction sheet. The rest can return to the game box. However, if you want to add them into your deck, you may while using the advanced game setup. I'll describe the differences in a bit. Now separate and shuffle the tactics decks. The orange backs with the AT-AT showing are the ground tactics cards. The blue backed cards showing a ship are space tactics. These are both used by both factions. Create supply piles of the rest of the tokens and dice. There are damage markers, sabotage markers, and attachment rings. Set aside the 3 destroyed system markers near the Imperial player's side. Give the Rebel player the deck of probe cards. Each faction should look through all their mission cards and sort them. First, find your 4 starting mission cards, which are indicated at the bottom with a yellow arrow. Set them near your faction sheet. Next, create a deck of the project missions, which show a white star on the bottom right of the card. The Imperial player takes all of these and shuffles them into a deck, which sits on the project space of the game board. All the remaining mission cards are shuffled for each faction and creates their mission deck. These will sit next to each faction's sheet. At this point, you're ready to populate the galaxy board with loyalty markers and starting miniatures. However, there are 2 ways to do this. I'll cover that all in just a second. After preparing the board with each faction's units and loyalty markers, proceed to the step where the Rebel player chooses the secret Rebel home base. To do that, take whatever remaining probe cards are in the deck and remove any systems that have Imperial units currently on them on the board. Return these to the box. The Rebel player now looks at the available probe cards and selects one of them to represent the Rebel home base. For your first game, it's recommended not to choose a system directly adjacent to any Imperial occupied systems. The chosen card is placed face down and slid under the board where it says location. Shuffle the probe deck and place it on its space on the game board. Then each player takes their 4 starting mission cards and draws 2 more from their mission deck to create their starting hands. Your hand should always be kept secret from the other faction. Now, you're ready to start. During setup, right after creating your mission deck, you'll be placing out your starting units and loyalty markers across the board. This is done in one of 2 ways. The first way is a default starting setup for both factions, which is recommended for your first game. The second way is called the advanced setup. Follow along on page 16 as I review the first game default setup. Remove from the probe deck the following systems: Corellia, Mandalore, Salukami, Sullust, and Mustafar. Shuffle it and return it to its space. The Rebel player should place a loyalty marker on Kashyyyk, Bothaway, and Naboo. The Imperial player has double-sided loyalty markers. The Imperial symbol side is the loyalty marker side, and the Stormtrooper side is the subjugation side, which shows that the system is under occupation by the Empire, but not under its control yet. They should place the loyalty markers on Salukami, Corellia, and Mustafar, and subjugation markers at Mandalore and Sullust. Now you'll add your faction's miniatures to some of these starting systems. Note that the ground units are placed on the planet, and the space units are in space. On Bothaway, the Rebel player should have 1 Corellian Corvette, 1 Rebel transport, 1 X-Wing, 1 Y-Wing, 3 Rebel troopers, and 1 airspeeder. Next to the probe card location area is a large section representing the Rebel base. Populate the base with 1 X-Wing, 1 Y-Wing, 3 Rebel troopers, and 1 airspeeder. The Rebel base space allows the Rebel player during the game to build up defenses without giving away the actual location to the Imperial players. The Imperials start with quite a bit more units on the board. At Salukami, place 1 Star Destroyer, 2 TIE Fighters, 2 Stormtroopers, and 1 AT-ST. At Mandalore, place 1 Death Star, 4 TIE Fighters, 2 Stormtroopers, and 1 AT-ST. In Coruscant, place 1 Star Destroyer, 1 Assault Carrier, 2 TIE Fighters, 3 Stormtroopers, 1 AT-AT, and 1 AT-ST. In Corellia, place 1 Assault Carrier and 1 Stormtrooper. In Sullust, place 1 Star Destroyer, 2 TIE Fighters, 2 Stormtroopers, and 1 AT-ST. Lastly, in Mustafar, place 1 Assault Carrier, 2 TIE Fighters, 2 Stormtroopers, and 1 AT-ST. That concludes the default placement of units for the first game. Continue on with the setup step of the Rebel player choosing its Rebel base card. To populate the board using the advanced setup, each faction will have a little more agency over the starting locations of their units. Follow along on page 18 if you like, as I explain how it works. Once again, you'll be doing this step during setup right after creating your mission decks. First, shuffle the probe deck. Reveal cards from the top face up until 3 Rebel systems and 5 Imperial systems have been revealed. You'll see their icons on the cards on the bottom. Place Rebel loyalty markers on the board and all 3 Rebel systems revealed this way. The first 2 Imperial systems revealed will get subjugation markers on them. The final 3 will have Imperial loyalty markers. Systems on the board are either populous or remote. The populous systems have a loyalty space and resource icons that it produces. The remote systems will not and cannot be given loyalty. Remove the 5 initial probe cards back to the game box. Shuffle any others back into the probe deck. The Imperial player places their units on the board first. Collect and create a pool of the following Imperial units: 3 Star Destroyers, 3 Assault Carriers, 12 TIE Fighters, 12 Stormtroopers, 5 AT-STs, 1 AT-AT, and 1 Death Star. The Imperial player may choose where to place these units from among any system showing an Imperial loyalty or subjugation marker. The only restriction is that each Imperial system must have at least 1 ground unit. The Rebel player will place all their units once the Imperial player is done placing theirs. However, they can go ahead and collect their units that forms their pool. They'll start with 1 Corellian Corvette, 1 Rebel transport, 2 X-Wings, 2 Y-Wings, 6 Rebel troopers, and 2 airspeeders. The Rebel player will also now get to choose where to place all of these units. They may place them in any combination between the Rebel base space on the game board and or in any one system. The one system on the board chosen must be either a Rebel system or a neutral system, meaning no one has any loyalty or subjugation there. Now each faction draws 2 action cards. Do not draw any that show a recruit icon. The action cards will provide one-time use abilities during the game. They can be used during a mission or combat, but one of the leaders shown on the card must be in the system it's used in. Each action card tells you when it can be used in italics below the title, either during assignment, at the start of combat, immediately, or as a special use as specified on the card. When advancing the time marker during the refresh phase of a round, players may earn more action cards. After this, you're done with the advanced setup. Continue to the setup step of the Rebel player choosing the Rebel base. Star Wars Rebellion takes place over a series of rounds which follows 3 basic phases in order each time: the assignment phase, the command phase, and the refresh phase. Both the Rebel faction and the Imperial faction resolve the current phase before proceeding to the next phase. The Rebels will go first in each phase. First is the assignment phase, which players will get to assign their leaders in their pools to missions. The Rebel player will assign whatever missions they want first. When they're completely done, the Imperial player will do the same. From your hand of mission cards, choose a mission to do. You must assign to it at least one of your available leaders by placing the mission card face down near your faction sheet. Then place 1 or 2 leaders on top of the card to do the mission. No more than 2. The mission will show a skill requirement icon at the top left corner. The number is the minimum number of skill icons needed to reveal the mission. The leaders you assign there must be able to contribute to the number of skill points required to attempt the mission. Leave any unassigned leaders in your leader pool to be used during the command phase. The leaders in your pool will let you move units on the board or try to stop opponents' missions. After both sides have finished assigning leaders to missions, proceed to the next phase. The second phase is the command phase. Starting with the Rebel player, take turns between the 2 factions, either activating a system or revealing a mission. Alternatively, they may choose to pass, which means they stop taking turns for the rest of the phase. Once both players have passed, you'll move on to the refresh phase. By choosing to activate a system, you may use a leader from your pool to move your units on the board. You must use a leader that has tactic values, as shown in the leader's bottom corners. Place it in any system, and you may move ships from adjacent systems into it. You may not move units out of a system that already has one of your leaders in it. Also, some unit types are considered structures and have an immobile icon on them, as shown on the faction sheet. Once placed, they may not ever move, but provide combat abilities when combat occurs in its system. In addition to bringing ships over, you may also bring ground units on board them. You are limited by the carrying capacity of each ship. Look at the faction sheet to find each ship's carrying capacity. The number in the left corner of the ship's image is how many ground units it can take with it. The Imperial TIE fighters need to be transported just like ground units. Moving your units to a system occupied by opponents will initiate combat. I'll cover that later. If the Imperial player places ground units on a planet in a system, the Rebel player must declare if they found the Rebel base or not. This is one of the ways the Imperial player can start narrowing down where it might be. The other action you can do during the command phase is reveal a mission. Choose one of your face-down mission cards that you assigned a leader to. The missions typically say attempt the mission or resolve the mission. Declare which system the mission is in and place the leader there. The Rebel player may do missions at the Rebel base, but remember not to place your leader on the actual system it's in. That would give it away. So instead, place him on the Rebel base space on the side of the board. However, the units you move to the Rebel base space must come from an adjacent system to where the actual Rebel base is. So you'll be giving some information to the Imperial players. Missions that say to resolve it means the mission is always successful and can't be contested. If the mission says attempt, then the opposing faction can try to stop it from succeeding. Also, after resolving any starting mission cards, return them to your hand. All others will be discarded. When attempting a mission, the other player may choose to oppose it by placing one of their available leaders from their leader pool in the same system. The mission shows a skill icon on it. Both players get to roll a number of dice equal to all the matching icons among all their leaders in that system. These 2 symbols each count as 1 success. This one that shows 2 lightsabers counts as 2 successes. If the player attempting the mission rolls more successes than the opponent, they succeed at the mission and carry out the ability on the card. If the player ties or rolls less successes, the mission fails and won't trigger its ability. The third phase of a round is the refresh phase, which is to prepare for the next round. Follow these steps in order. First, each player retrieves their leaders from the board and returns them to their leader pool. Any leaders on mission cards that didn't get revealed for whatever reason are returned to the pool as well. The unrevealed mission card returns to the player's hand and is not discarded. Next, each player draws 2 mission cards from the top of their mission deck. The hand limit is 10, so if after drawing you have more than 10, discard down. Now the Imperial player gets to draw 2 probe cards off the top of the probe deck. They should keep this secret and only share this with the Imperial teammate. The probe card shows systems on the board that the Rebel base isn't. The Rebel player will get to draw 1 objective card to their hand off the top of the objective deck. Next, advance the time marker 1 space forward on the track. Some of the numbered spaces have icons attached to them indicating times to build and/or recruit. The recruit icon will let each player draw 2 cards from their action deck. Then choose and keep 1 leader shown on either card they drew. Find the leader standee and add him to your leader pool. The abilities on the cards are ignored if playing your first game. In the advanced game, you'll get to keep one of the cards you drew to use its ability as well. The other card will be placed face down at the bottom of the action deck. If the time marker moves to a space with the build icon, each faction gets to build units based on where they have loyalty or subjugation. The resource icons above the names of each system correspond to space and ground units on your faction sheet. For each system a player has loyalty, they may add 1 matching unit to the build queue on the side of the board. For example, if the Rebels had loyalty in Nal Hutta, they may add a unit matching an orange triangle and a blue triangle to the queue. The choice is theirs as to which unit they want to build, since icons are shown for multiple units. The number to the left of it shows which queue number to place it in. It will go in 1, 2, or 3. 1 is the closest spot to being ready to deploy. Each faction has their own build queue to use that faces them. The Imperial player may have subjugated systems, which gives them limited use of that system's resources. When there's at least 1 Imperial ground unit in a system without Imperial loyalty, the Empire subjugates it. They will place a subjugation marker on top of any Rebel loyalty token already there. As soon as there are no more Imperial ground units on the planet, the subjugation token is discarded. In those systems, they may only build 1 unit from the leftmost shown resource icon. Lastly, both players will get to deploy units. Starting with the Rebel player, slide all the units in 1 off the board, units from 2 to 1, and units from 3 to 2. The units that fell off the track are able to be deployed on the board anywhere with their loyalty or subjugation markers. Imperials deploy second. When deploying units, each player may only place 2 new units in a single system. The Rebels may also deploy directly into the Rebel base space as if it were its own system. If a system you're trying to deploy to has opponents' units in it or has a sabotage marker, you may not deploy there. That concludes the refresh phase, so proceed back to the assignment phase for the next round to begin. The leaders will have an orange or blue color to them. These colors are only used to distinguish which player in a team game will control which leaders. If you don't have a teammate, the colors don't mean anything. The numbers in the colored corners indicate how many tactics cards that leader will get to draw before engaging in a space or ground combat. Blue for space, orange for ground. Each leader will have some combination of skill icons on them. The skill icons help contribute to accomplishing missions. Each icon has a different meaning to it. The orange one is diplomacy. It helps diplomatic missions that usually gain loyalty in systems or bring in more units. The blue icon is for intel. The intel missions may gain the Rebels' objective cards and help Imperials find the Rebel base. The white and brown icon here is for logistics. Rebel logistical missions are about moving units to and from the Rebel base. For the Imperials, the missions help build bigger, better units or speed up their build queue. The red icon is Spec Ops. The Rebel Spec Ops missions destroy Imperial units directly. Imperial Spec Ops missions may involve capturing Rebel leaders or manipulating them in some way. Some mission abilities may capture leaders and make use of certain rings. For example, this ring is the Captured Leader ring, while this one is used for the Trapped in Carbonite ability. Press the leader token into the ring to attach it. Each card describes the effect the ring has on the targeted leader. If a new kind of ring would need to be attached to a leader, remove the previous one and attach the new one. Usually, captured leaders may not be used to oppose missions, won't return to their owner's leader pool, and may not be moved by the player owner. You are allowed to move your other units out of systems where the captured leader is. They won't prevent that. The Imperial player has one capture leader ring to be used at a time. They may move the captured leader like ground units. Some missions must be done against captured leaders. When a mission is against the captured leader, the leader may contribute to opposing it. If there are no Imperial units in the captured leader system, they are rescued. Some Rebel missions let them try to rescue them as well. After being rescued, remove the ring and place the leader in the Rebel base space. In some cases, a card ability lets you eliminate a leader. If so, the leader is removed from the game. There's a few mission clarifications to go over. Some missions say to attempt it against a leader. The attempted mission takes place in that leader's system. If you attempt a mission with the leader shown on the card below the skill icon, they automatically add 2 successes to the roll. For the resolving type missions, using the shown leader triggers an additional effect as shown on the card. Sometimes a Rebel mission will say to place a sabotage marker in a system on the board. Use one of these tokens and cover up the resource icons shown. While the marker is there, neither faction will get to use the resources provided or be allowed to deploy units there. The Rebel player has a mission card called Rapid Mobilization that lets them establish a new base. To do this mission, the Rebel player draws 4 probe cards off the probe deck. They may choose one of these to become the new base location, but may not choose one that is occupied by Imperial units or has Imperial loyalty. It could be possible none of the cards drawn fits this qualification, and therefore the mission fails. Once choosing a new base location, reveal the old one's probe card and give it to the Imperial player. Any units present in the Rebel base space should be moved to that original system on the board. Then shuffle the unchosen probe cards and place them at the bottom of the deck. The Imperial player may use the Death Star to destroy a system, but it takes some effort. First, they must use research and development to be able to draw cards from their projects deck. One of the projects is called Super Laser Online. That special project allows them to target a system and destroy it following the text on the card. When destroying a system, place a large destroyed system marker over it. All Rebel ground units are destroyed. Also, if the system was where the Rebel base was, the Imperials immediately win the game. The Rebels may only destroy the Death Star by using the Death Star Plans objective card found in the objective deck. Without that card, the Death Star doesn't have a health value and can't be assigned or dealt damage. During each refresh phase, the Rebels get one more objective card off the deck. The objective card can be played at the specified time if the condition on the card is met. When completing an objective, move the Rebel reputation marker towards the time marker a number of spaces equal to the objective number. Only one objective can be played during each combat and each refresh phase. Combat typically occurs when one faction moves their units into a system containing the opponent's units. When using your leader to bring your units in, bring all of them in from the adjacent systems you want before starting combat. Now, if either player doesn't have a leader in that system that allows them to draw tactics cards, they may place one leader there from the pool who can. From your leaders in the system, find the highest tactics value for space and ground. Draw that many cards from each deck. Note the highest space value may be on one leader, while your highest ground value could be a different leader. After drawing tactics cards, resolve a combat round, starting in space, then with the ground units. If the opponent doesn't also have space or ground units, that battle arena doesn't happen. When the Imperial player places ground troops on the planet of a system, the Rebel player must say if it's the Rebel base or not. Reveal the base before resolving combat. Move all the Rebel units from the Rebel base space onto its system on the board. Reveal the probe card under the location area and leave it face up the rest of the game. The player who initiated combat will get to go first. Each of their ships may attack once, followed by the opponent's ships. After resolving each of their attacks, move on to ground battles, doing the same. All the attacking player's ground units may do one attack, followed by the defending player and their units. Afterwards, the current player may have the option to retreat. If they don't retreat, the other player can now choose to. If both factions still have units in matching theaters, space or ground, continue with another combat round. If not, combat is over. Any damage tokens assigned to units will be removed if combat ends. For a quick review, think of the process of a combat round as draw tactics cards, then aggressor attacks in space, then defender attacks in space, followed by aggressor attacking on ground and defender attacking on ground. They each get an option to retreat or continue fighting. When you are attacking, you'll get to roll a combination of red and black dice provided by each of your unit's attack values on the faction sheet. You may never roll more than 5 black and 5 red dice in a single attack. The Rebels' Corellian Corvette lets them add 1 black and 1 red die to their attack dice pool. Their health is at 2, but it's red. Only red attack dice will damage it. After rolling the dice, the attacking player may do any number of additional combat actions. They can play a tactic card matching the arena the fight is in, space or ground, and discard it after using it. Some cards show the double lightsaber icon, meaning you must discard one of your rolled double lightsabers to use the card's ability. The other possible combat action is to draw another tactic card. To do that, discard a rolled double lightsaber result to draw 1 card from the matching arena tactics deck. The new card can be used now or later in the same combat. Next, assign the damage you rolled against the opponent's units in the matching arena. Place the dice or cards used next to the units the damage is assigned to. This result is a hit and deals 1 damage of red or black damage to a target with red or black health. This icon is a direct hit, meaning 1 damage is dealt to any one unit regardless of their health color. If you have any unspent double lightsabers, they count as 2 successes. The opponent may try to block the incoming damage by playing certain tactics cards. Successfully blocked damage is immediately cancelled and doesn't affect the unit. Afterwards, any units that have received damage equal to their health will be destroyed and returned to the general supply. However, if the unit to be destroyed hasn't yet attacked, set it on its faction sheet to remind you to let it attack before it is destroyed. It will contribute its dice towards attacking back. Any units that received damage but not enough to be destroyed will stay out and will be given a damage marker. The damage tokens will continue to be added during the entire combat until it is destroyed or combat is over. Any remaining damage markers at the end of all combat rounds will be discarded. So each new instance of combat will have fully repaired units. Remember that you may be continuing this combat with drawing tactics and resolving space and ground battles again. In that case, the damage remains because it's the same combat. It's the same unless someone retreats, is completely destroyed in that system, or both players don't share units in space or ground together, and therefore can't fight. When taking the option to retreat, move your leader from the system into an adjacent system. If you don't have a leader there, you may not retreat. The Imperial player may not retreat if their Death Star is involved in the combat. When retreating to an adjacent system, you must prioritize ones that either contain their own units or their loyalty marker. You may not retreat to a system with the opponent's units. Additionally, if you are defending, you may not retreat to the system the attacking player moved in from. The Rebellion and Empire win on different conditions. If the Imperials conquer the Rebel base, they win. They can either destroy it with the Death Star or be the only units in the Rebel system. If they can remove all the Rebel units and still have Imperial units present, they'll win. The Rebel players will win if the reputation marker and the time marker share a space on the time track. Throughout the game, Rebels will have opportunities to move the reputation marker down the track by completing objectives. When completing an objective, they'll move the marker as many spaces as is shown on the objective card. Gaining reputation thematically is the Rebellion garnering sympathy in the galaxy that will lead to the decline of the Empire's foothold. Star Wars Rebellion may also be played at 3 or 4 players, which it calls the team game. One person will be the Admiral and one the General. Admirals will control the leaders with a blue color at the bottom, and Generals control the orange leaders. This is the only reason for the different colors on leaders. The number shown on the faction sheet beside each leader's name is their initiative number. Players must activate them in order, starting with the lowest. They may use the leader normally or pass. Team members may share whatever information they want, but must be done at the table and openly in front of their opponents. Whispering or using code is acceptable. The General and Admiral have different responsibilities, which are outlined on page 19 of the Learn to Play rulebook. Essentially, the Admiral is in charge of all recruiting of leaders, doing space battles, and building and deploying units on the board. The General is in charge of mission cards, ground battles, the probe deck, and objective cards. In a 3-player game, 1 player will be the Rebels, with the other 2 on the Imperial side. The Rebel player should use the team side of the Rebel faction sheet, and will have 2 turns each round. The orange and blue leaders should still be separated in their respective pools as if playing a 4-player game. The expansion to Star Wars Rebellion is called The Rise of the Empire. It adds a lot of new components and introduces some rule changes, which I really like. You'll first notice that all the expansion cards have this Death Star icon on them. If using the expansion, you'll need to remove the following cards: Sabotage, Son of Skywalker, Good Intel, and Construct Super Star Destroyer. The new cards replace these with updated versions. Mix all the cards together in their matching decks. There are a few new units you can build, which comes with new faction sheets to add to the base games. Next, you'll prepare the objective deck a little differently. Sort them into piles showing 1, 2, and 3. Then build stages 2 and 3 with 1 copy of Death Star plans and 4 random cards from each stage. For the first stage, shuffle and make a stack of 5 random cards to go on top. Don't use the small tactics cards from the base game. Instead, you'll use new advanced tactics cards and some new rules regarding them. To prepare the mission decks, use only mission cards showing the Darth Vader icon or a leader icon on the left. In future games, you choose a mission set to use. To do that, each player will decide if they're using the expansion or base game mission cards. Place a card from the expansion or base game face down and reveal them simultaneously. If a player showed a Darth Vader icon, they will proceed with gathering the expansion missions and removing the base game missions. If revealing a blank base game mission, they will remove the expansion mission cards and play with the base game missions. Don't forget that either way, you'll always keep the leader cards with leader icons. The starting missions and project cards are used every game. The Rise of the Empire comes with its own list of starting units. Players must agree to use the base game's list or the expansion's list. The details are found on the first page. Green combat dice are added to the game, which roll direct hits or misses. Only roll them when told to, and never more than 3. On the new leaders, the smaller skill icons present mean you should roll green dice for each small icon in addition to the normal dice when attempting missions. Each faction now has pool limit of 8 leaders, so if gaining more, they'll need to discard down to 8. These new tokens are target markers, which some mission cards make use of. New units to the game, like the shield bunker, can be deployed anywhere you have 1 Imperial ground unit, and it will protect the Death Star in its system. The Interdictor will prevent rebels from retreating from combat. Each faction will get their own deck of tactics cards now, instead of drawing from the small base game tactics. Before each round of space battle and each round of ground battle, players look through all their tactics cards for the appropriate arena and chooses one to play. Both choose and play their card at the same time. Start with the current player, who chooses to resolve the top or bottom of the card. Some abilities on the card can activate only if the matching unit is in battle. The new tactics cards can only be played at the beginning of the combat rounds, not during. Discard spent tactics cards into a discard pile and do not shuffle it back in until you've used every tactic card. The contents of the discard piles are public information. Using these new rules, the numbers on the leaders no longer tell you how many cards to draw. Instead, the highest value lets you re-roll that many dice. They must be re-rolled simultaneously. Now, the double lightsaber die can be used to remove 1 damage token from one of your units. And that covers most of the changes you'll see in the expansion. I recommend it. Keep the rules reference book handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. Check the video description for links to Top Shelf Gamer for token upgrades and SleeveKings.com for a 10% off coupon on card sleeves. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.